Welcome back. In this session, you will see how applying DISC to our sales cycle will help us close sales. Essentially, we will be using modification technique of our style to the style of our buyer. This is why we call it the chameleon process. We will walk through the 5 sales cycle stages and explore how understanding DISC styles can supercharge our success at each step. There's a cheat sheet for you to use, so be sure to download it or see it in the workbook. So let's dive in. First, the hunt. Prospecting and making meaningful connections. When a realtor meets with a potential buyer for the first time, it's essential to consider their communication style and preferences. Before reaching out, it's sometimes helpful to gather some information about the prospect. In today's digital age, I often use online programs or platforms like Google, Facebook, or LinkedIn to learn more about my clients. For example, if I find that a potential buyer holds a high-level executive position and has a track record for making quick decisions, they may have a more direct and results-oriented communication style. In this case, I would focus on presenting properties, key features, and benefits without much small talk. On the other hand, if the buyer is active on social media and engages in the community events, they may have a more social and personable communication style. In this case, I would start the conversation with a warm and friendly approach, discussing shared interests and how a property could enhance their lifestyle. Interesting to note is that oftentimes you have a husband and wife, and they can be opposite styles. So it's important to recognize this as you're moving through these different stages. Understanding these cues, such as their preference for active versus passive communication, focus on task versus people, and verbal and nonverbal cues, can guide my initial approach and help me establish a strong connection with the potential buyer. So next we come up to the discovery. This is where we're talking to them and unearthing their desires and their needs. Now that we're talking with our potential buyer, it's essential to delve a little bit deeper. In this stage, recognizing task-oriented versus people-oriented traits becomes a little more crucial. If you're interacting with a C-style prospect, they will likely have numerous questions and seek detailed information. It's important to let them ask their questions and encourage it by saying, "I appreciate your thorough approach. What specific metrics are most important to your team?" If you are the I type of personality, the C type of buyer might be your biggest challenge. Remember, the biggest fear of the I personality is not being liked. So don't take the C asking too many questions as them not liking you. The process is essential to C types. Also, being thorough is generally not one of your strong suits as an I type. So develop a process to compensate you for this shortcoming. And then conversely, if you are the C type of seller style, dealing with the I type of buyer, do not inundate them with too much information. The I type of buyer is interested in having fun during the process and building a relationship. For an S-style prospect, which tends to be people-oriented and less forthcoming verbally, it's essential to create a comfortable environment for them to express themselves. You might say, "I understand that implementing new systems can be challenging for a team. How do you usually handle these transitions?" Sometimes a D-style salesperson can come on too strong for the S-type of buyer. You need to recognize their need to take time to adjust to the change. The S-style, as you recall, their biggest fear is the fear of change. During this phase, it's crucial to observe your prospect's pace, their focus, whether they're task or people, and the balance between their talking and listening. These cues will help you effectively explore their desires and requirements. So now we come to the solution and crafting the perfect remedy. As you prepare to present your solution to the buyer, remember their needs and DISC style. For an active and task-oriented buyer, emphasize the results and the bottom line impact. A D type, you could say, based on what you've shared, I'm confident that we can find a home that meets all of your requirements and stays within your budget. And here's how we'll do it. When presenting to a buyer who is more people-oriented, paint a vivid picture of success. Imagine walking into your dream home and feeling an instant connection. The I individual is all about the experience. The S individual, who's also people-oriented, is all about building an experience of family, in their new home. Our clients typically experience that feeling within a short time of working with us. So remember to match their pace, mirror their focus on either the property or the neighborhood, and adjust your level of detail based on their verbal or nonverbal cues. Now we're coming to the commitment, securing the partnership. As we move to close the deal, our DISC insights become more crucial than ever. Be prepared with clear next steps for our task-oriented styles, the Ds and the Cs. A D will appreciate a direct approach. Are you ready to move forward? Can we have the contract ready this afternoon? Whereas a C, they might need more time. Maybe you'll need to send them a detailed proposal for their review. How about we reconnect next week to address any questions? With our people-oriented styles, the I's and the S's, we focus on the relationship. An I might respond well to, I'm excited about the possibility of working together. Shall we shake on it? And for an S, provide reassurance. We'll be with you every step of the way. How about we start a 30-day trial to ensure it's a perfect fit? Now we come to the fifth stage, the nurture, cultivating long-term success. The sale is closed, but our job isn't done. This is where our DISC knowledge helps us build lasting relationships. For the D styles, you should keep them updated with brief, results-focused check-ins. For example, you could say something like, here's a quick update. You're already seeing a 15% increase in potential properties, or I have 3 ideas to find even better options. Do you have 5 minutes to discuss? Remember, they're the go-getters, so it's best to get direct and focus on results when dealing with them. Also, respect their time and be prepared to handle challenges. Remember, their biggest fear is being taken advantage of, so be mindful of that. The I styles will appreciate a more personal touch, so use something like, hey Sarah, I was just telling my team about the amazing properties you're interested in. We'd love to feature your home buying journey in our newsletter. Would you be interested? Now don't try that with the C's. But anyway, the I's, they're all about relationships, so be warm and personable. Share stories and be enthusiastic to engage with their excitement. They fear losing influence or disapproval, so make sure to show them that you really like them. The S styles, they value consistency. So setting up regular low-pressure check-ins. For example, hi Tom, it's our monthly catch-up. How has your search for the perfect home been going? Remember to take your time and build trust with them. They fear change, so be consistent and reliable. Showing empathy and providing support for them will earn their confidence. And lastly, for the C styles, now don't offer to do their home journey, in your newsletter, but come prepared with data. You could say, I prepared a detailed report for you on the properties we've seen so far. I've highlighted 3 areas where we can find even better matches. Shall we discuss? C-style buyers are all about the details and their precision. Be patient, answer their questions with confidence, and show expertise. They fear criticism and being wrong, so provide them with the information that they need to make a good decision. By tailoring your follow-up to each client's DISC style, you are not just helping them find a house, you're building partnerships that last. It's not about changing who you are, but understanding who they are to connect more effectively. Keep practicing these strategies and you'll see success in your interactions and sales. So happy selling, and remember, you're on your way to more insightful conversations, smooth sales interactions, and better relationships with all your clients.